My cherry cobbler with cake mix recipe is easy and delicious. It's a type of cherry dump cake made with pie filling that, although it only really has 3 ingredients, adding a couple extra things will elevate this cobbler from good to great. For a 9 by 13 casserole dish, you will need two 21-ounce cans of cherry pie filling. In the United States, canned pie filling is usually sold in 20 or 21-ounce cans, but as always, check the label. You are also going to need one 15.25-ounce box of cake mix. I am going to use white. I recommend either white or yellow because those flavors are fairly neutral, but you could definitely experiment. I think chocolate cake mix would be good, French vanilla as well. So if you experiment and use a different type of cake mix, please let me know in the comments section how it turned out. Also, you're going to need some butter, a lot of butter, 2 sticks of butter. Like I said, this simple cherry cobbler recipe really only has 3 ingredients, but adding some extra things like I'm going to do will take this to the next level. I am going to add 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. I zested the lemon before juicing it. I'm not going to add the zest now. I'm going to sprinkle it on top later because I think the extra color will be nice. 1 teaspoon of almond extract. I know that adding almond extract to cherry cobbler sounds a bit weird, but almond extract actually really brings out cherry flavor very nicely. It's in almost all traditional cherry pie recipes, including my own. The 2 plants are related botanically, so that's probably why. If you don't have almond extract, I guess you could use vanilla, but it wouldn't be the same. So honestly, I would just leave it out because the canned pie filling already has a good amount of flavor. However, if you do have almond extract on hand, I highly recommend adding some because like I said, it's really going to bring out the cherry flavor. And finally, even though the pie filling and the cake mix both have sugar, I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup, or as I measure, 50 grams of plain white sugar. Like I said, this cherry cobbler recipe is super easy. The first step is simply emptying out the cans of pie filling into the casserole dish after it is greased. I took one of the sticks of butter and just went like this along the sides to grease it. And now I'm just going to empty out the cans of pie filling. I just finished spreading out the cherry pie filling in the casserole dish. So now I'm going to add my extra ingredients. Here I have my 1 teaspoon of almond extract. I added it to my 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I'm going to mix. And now I'm going to take a 1/2 teaspoon measurement to just sprinkle it over the top. I want to somewhat evenly distribute it, so I'm using a smaller measurement to do that. I think you should definitely use a little spoon to spread it out because if you just go like that, I can almost guarantee you that the majority of this mixture is going to end up in only one part of the cobbler and will not be distributed. There we go. I'm going to hold off on the zest like I said, and now for the extra 1/4 cup of white sugar. I'm going to sprinkle it over as evenly as I can. Does it have to be perfect? No, it does not. I'm going to go back and smooth it out a little bit. There. Now I'm going to take a fork or a spoon. I think a fork works good for this, but honestly you could use pretty much anything. And I'm just going to spread everything together to make sure that the lemon juice the almond extract and the sugar are more or less evenly distributed. Now that everything is thoroughly mixed together, I'm going to sprinkle on the cake mix. Like I said, this is a type of cherry dump cake. There's no mixing anything. All I'm literally doing is pouring or dumping the ingredients into my casserole dish. So here I have my box of cake mix, and I'm literally just going to shake it over the top, trying to spread it out as evenly as possible. But I am going to go back and even it out even more. So when you do this at home, just do the best you can. I actually did try the cherry pie filling. It tastes very good after I added the almond extract and the lemon juice and the extra sugar. If you try it and it seems like the lemon's a bit strong or the almond extract is a bit strong, don't be afraid, because as this bakes, the flavors will blend together and mellow out. So if you think like, oh, I might have ruined this by adding too much lemon, you did not. You just have to wait for the oven to do its magic. Went and found a spoon, a clean spoon. Now I'm just going to drag it over the top to evenly distribute the cake mix. You want it so that as little of the cherry pie filling is showing through as possible. Will it be perfect? No. Do not think you have to make it perfect. Just as good as you can. Notice how I'm dragging the spoon over the top. I'm not going down like this. You can go down like this if you want every once in a while, but do not pack it down. I know some people might feel obligated or feel like they should pack this down for some reason. Do not do that. All you have to do is just smooth out the cake mix on top. While I'm doing this, I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I finished smoothing out the cake mix on top of the pie filling. Now it's time to move on to the butter. You may have noticed that the butter was gone from the counter. That's because I had put it back into the refrigerator. It is much easier to slice butter when it is cold. I'm just taking a stick of butter and I am cutting it into small pieces like this. Nice and thin. I would say that for every tablespoon, I am doing 3 pieces of butter. Trying to do 3 pieces of butter. Yes, that is what I would say. Let's see how many I get here. 1, 2, 3. 3 to 4 pieces of butter per tablespoon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the butter and just lay it on top of the cobbler like this. You want small pieces of butter so that you can spread out the butter. The butter, when it melts, it will spread out a little bit, but it's going to melt more down than out. So that is why you want to have a lot of little pieces of butter on top of your cobbler and not a few big pieces of butter. They don't have to touch each other. Just have to be on there like so. I would say there. The pieces that fall apart, I'm probably going to put them off to the side. I'm going to make sure you can see me doing this. Nice small pieces of butter. I'm going to do this to both sticks of butter and just put the pieces over the top. Once I'm done doing this, I will bring you back. I just finished putting the butter on top of the cobbler instead of cutting the butter into small pieces and laying those pieces on top of the cobbler. I have seen some other videos on YouTube in which people melt the butter and then pour it over the top. You could do that, but my gut tells me that you won't get the even distribution of butter with that method, like if you just cut the butter into small pieces and lay them on top. My cherry cobbler's done, so now it's going to go into a 350-degree oven for, I'm guessing, an hour and a half, but I just pulled the cherry cobbler out of the oven. It was in at 350 Fahrenheit, uncovered, for an hour and 15, maybe an hour and 20 minutes.
This cobbler looked and smelled great, so I couldn't wait to dig in. Honestly, my cherry cobbler with cake mix recipe was a success because it was delicious and easy to make. Aesthetically, it looked really good. The cake mix topping turned perfectly golden brown because of the 2 sticks of butter, and the cherry pie filling bubbled up here and there, revealing the bright red color underneath. There was also a really good ratio of filling to topping, neither completely overpowering the cobbler. In terms of taste, I think that using canned cherry pie filling worked very nicely in this recipe. The filling had a ton of flavor, but adding the almond extract and the lemon juice, along with a bit of extra sugar, definitely took this cobbler to the next level. Although I do think this would have been okay without adding the extras, I think that adding the extras is a good idea. The cake mix crust was very good. The 2 sticks of butter, not only turning it perfectly golden brown, but also adding a ton of buttery richness. You'll probably remember the lemon zest that I had off to the side when I was putting everything together. I was going to sprinkle that over the cobbler when I served it, and I tried it, and I actually preferred this cobbler without the lemon zest. I also really like the combination of textures. The filling was soft and gooey in a good way, and the topping was crispy and crunchy. Honestly, the texture combination reminded me of the cherry crisp that I did in the summer of 2020. So if you like fruit crisp or pies or cobblers with crumb topping, you will love this. Even though I have a lot of good things to say about my cherry cobbler with cake mix and pie filling recipe, and it was honestly good, I have to admit that it was not my favorite. I made a very similar dump cake style apple cobbler in the fall of 2021. And just like that one, my main complaint with this cherry cobbler is that it was a bit on the sweet side. Normal pie crust doesn't have any sugar, or if it does, it has maybe 1 teaspoon. But cake mix has sugar, so using it to make the topping for a cobbler makes the topping too sweet, in my opinion. Combined with the pie filling that came with sugar added, and also the bit of extra sugar that I added, I think that using a box of cake mix to make the topping for a cobbler just makes it too sweet. My second criticism of this recipe is that even though the cherry pie filling was good, if you make pies or cobblers with fresh or frozen fruit and you add your own sugar and extracts and spices and things like that, that homemade filling is going to be a lot more flavorful than the canned pie filling you buy at the store. Because the filling you make at home will probably have more fruit and less sugar. I think the best thing about this recipe is that it's really quick and easy, and it's great for feeding a crowd. So it would be perfect for Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or even 4th of July. When you make this cherry cobbler, one thing you might want to experiment with is, instead of adding a bit of extra white sugar, add some extra brown sugar. Brown sugar would probably take away from the bright red color of the filling, but the bit of molasses would add some flavor. I'm sure you could also make this in a crock pot, so like I said, if it's Easter or some other holiday, put this in the crock pot, leave it for a couple hours, and you have a really good hands-off dessert that can feed a large number of people. My criticisms aside, I still think this is a good recipe. If you follow my channel, you know that I'm honest with my audience. I will tell you if I think something is amazing but I will also tell you if something is mediocre. My honest opinion about this cherry cobbler with cake mix and pie filling recipe is that 99% of people will like it. It tastes good, it's easy to make, it feeds a lot of people. Most people will like this. But if you want an old fashioned cherry cobbler, this recipe isn't it. But don't worry, I will give you one of those in the near future. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.